Here are 10 questions that I feel an atheist needs to answer if they're going to be consistent in what they believe. In doing so, if you wish to respond, please respond by dealing with arguments. Don't attack people and just try to discredit people because you don't want what they have to say to be heard by other people. Also, as you go through this, I'd like you to take it seriously, because really, if you don't have good answers to these questions, perhaps your belief as an atheist is based on blind faith. Question number 1. If there is no God, why is there anything at all? This is another angle on where did the universe come from without a creator. If you want to say, well, the Big Bang, great, I go for Big Bang, but God lit the fuse, God set it all in motion. Where did your Big Bang come from? Has anything ever been observed to happen without a cause? Okay. By the way, don't bother with the where did God come from argument. God, by definition, is self-existent and pre-existed this universe. In other words, when God created the universe, He created time along with it. There was no before or after at that point. So that argument just doesn't do any good. Second question: where is the evidence that life could have begun without intelligent interference? How can matter existing and moving randomly without any volition, without any will or anything else, become what's necessary for life and then become alive? So take a good look at that. Tell me what you think. Question 3. How can evolution explain features of irreducible complexity apart from intelligent intervention? And what I'm talking about is features that we see in creatures today, such as wings. Wings on birds. Birds supposedly evolved from reptiles, and those wings before this evolution were legs, forelimbs, arms, whatever you might want to call that. And you need to be able to say and demonstrate that each stage that was necessary in their steps of evolving these wings was a benefit to that creature all along the way. In other words, this creature whose legs began to be wings would have become less worthwhile as legs. How is he more survivable than the creature who has experienced no change and has perfectly good legs? So let's see that. Question 4. How can the evolutionary model be true, since the fossil record clearly shows most major groups emerging at the same time? I'd like you to Google Cambrian explosion and see what I'm talking about there. Stephen Jay Gould, who was the foremost proponent of evolution for years and years, now deceased, said that the dirty little secret of evolution was that the fossil record does not show gradual change. He's right, it doesn't. And yet we have been told since Darwin that gradual change is what happened. Very small steps, they're not in the fossil record. Darwinism and the evolutionary model is now becoming like the old story of the emperor's new clothes. People fear to publicly question it, but in private they do. And many of them have gone ahead and stepped out and put their names on lists of people who publicly declare that the Darwinian model does not account for what we see in nature today. So don't bother with telling me that all of those people are kooks. You know, we're talking PhD level scientists from you name it, universities and such. And, you know, deal with arguments, don't deal with your opinions on people's personalities and personal worth. If there is no, this is question 5, if there is no objective standard of right or wrong, which was furnished by the Creator, how can anything be wrong? If man is the result of mere chance, a combination of atoms that just happened, then why is there any value in life whatsoever? On what objective truth do you base your morality, if any? What can you point to that says why murdering babies is any less desirable a way to increase food supply than harvesting fruit from trees? Don't try diverting this argument by asking what makes my religion the right one. That's a side debate. We'll get to that later. Question 6. Which is the logically defensible position? That matter eternally existed, or else it came into existence all by itself for no reason. And then it arranged itself into extraordinarily complex living systems, including not only mechanisms but huge amounts of information that's needed for life to function. This being against everything that we've ever observed in science, where things moved towards disorder left on their own, as opposed to moving towards more order. Or the other position that an eternal self-existing being, definition of God, infinite intelligence, infinite power, created life and the information systems necessary for life to exist all at once. This is only a problem if you have a preconceived belief that God does not exist. What place do preconceptions have in scientific inquiry? 7. Natural selection requires that something be alive and reproducing for it to for natural selection to operate. It cannot be alive and reproducing without a huge amount of DNA operating the life functions inside the cell. So what came first? The code in the DNA or the organism that depends on it for life? How can natural selection produce something that is a prerequisite for natural selection to operate? Number 8. If scientists almost totally accept that a signal from outer space containing information that could be interpreted as a string of prime numbers would be proof of extraterrestrial intelligence, why would they not accept that the information coding in the nucleus of the simplest cells, DNA, which is equivalent to the information in a full set of Encyclopedia Britannica, was the result of intelligence? Number 9. What if God is real, as described in the Bible, and you have to stand before Him and give an account for your life? Do you have a list of reasons already for why you never accepted it? Under close scrutiny, will those reasons betray the fact that you don't want to believe, and will stick with anything that sounds good rather than look too closely? Number 10. If I answered all your objections to your satisfaction, would you submit your life to Jesus or recognize God as your Creator? If you say no, you must acknowledge that your objections are just a smokescreen. The real problem is that you don't want to submit or be accountable to rules given by Creator God. You don't have to have every answer to everything. I don't know everything about this video camera, but I'm able to use it and get benefits from it. You just need to accept that God created you and you need Jesus to make it into heaven as your starting point. You can be forgiven for anything you've done, and you are not expected to be instantly perfect or even eventually perfect. Just accept Jesus and try to follow him. It's okay if you say, God may be real, but I don't like him. You would say that utterly destroying thousands of people in the blink of an eye is a horrendous act of mass murder, wouldn't you? But you cheered when Luke Skywalker did just that by destroying the Death Star and crew in the first Star Wars movie. Don't assume that God was a bad guy when he did things like that in the Old Testament. Look into it for yourself. As you get to know him through the Bible, you will come to see that God loves you and does not intend for you to perish. You will live forever. The question is, will you enjoy the part of your life that happens after you die?